Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 612. Today we're going to take a look at the Unlock series. Now, I'm not going to take a look at this particular version of the game, just kind of the game in general. This is one of now 6 different unlock boxes that you can get. And now what the unlock boxes are, is they are little escape rooms in a box. You do need an app on an iPhone or an Android, and I'm not sure if it's on PC, on Steam or not. But definitely on a phone you can do this, and you'll get this box. They're about $15 each, and all these are a bunch of cards. And then there's an app that's going to interact with them based on which box you choose in the app that you have, and then you'll run through kind of an escape room type of idea where you're getting clues and putting kind of different clues and keys and things like that together. What I will show you though is a little tutorial. Now each of the boxes comes with like a 10-minute tutorial, not even that. And it'll walk you through that, and that's kind of a way to get you to learn the game. There's a couple extra little rules in the rule book that you should take a look at. But what I'll do is I'll walk you through that little tutorial. Let's give you kind of a flavor of how it works if you haven't already seen. This has already been talked about quite a bit at the time of this recording. And then I'll come back and I'll just give you my general thoughts on it. So this one particularly is called Squeak and Sausage. This is probably for sure the easiest one of the bunch, and I've only done one other one of this, and I haven't done any of the new ones, but I do feel comfortable enough to talk about it, having played 2 so far, and I can kind of talk about my experiences between the 2 without spoiling too much, because that's one thing you don't want to do with this kind of escape room type of vibe, is spoil. So let's jump into the tutorial thing, and then I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, so here's kind of everything you get in the box. Now this is the main sort of, let's call it the quest deck that you're going to be going through. You've got a little intro card, and then I've kind of mixed these up because we already completed this one here. And this will give you something you're going to flip over, and then you're going to go in and you're going to start kind of digging through these cards to get through the adventure, get through the escape. You do want to also make sure you do read some of the rules, because the tutorial doesn't cover every last thing. There's certainly things that you will need to know going into the main adventure that I think are just clearer by reading the rule book, but this is going to give you a good way to introduce new people. So if you do the rule book yourself, and then you sat down with some friends and you walked through this tutorial the first time, then that's just going to give everybody that kind of better that better introduction, and then you can kind of fill in just those very minor gaps with the book itself. Now of course you're also going to need the app itself here, so let's zoom in, and we're going to go ahead and I just started it up, and we're going to hit play. I think I've turned the sound off, and let's pick our country. And so we can say, oh, are we playing the tutorial? Are we playing the formula? This is the other one that I've played, Squeak and Sausage, which is the one we have, or what else do we got? So we're going to do the tutorial, and we're going to go ahead and hit play here. Whoops. And it's going to load up a little bit, and this gives you, I believe, as far as I recall, 10 minutes. And so now we can start it up there. So that's going to go, it's going to start a countdown there from 10 minutes. And you can see there's various different kind of interfaces here that if we wanted to type in a code, we can type in a code. Let's see, we can also, let's just turn the music off, I thought it was off. We can ask for hints and stuff like that. We might have machines. We might have to click the penalty button if one of the cards tells us to do that. Like let's say we go into a dead end or something, and it'll shave a minute or so off of our time. Now typically you have an hour to get through this. So let's just work through it so you can get an idea of how it works, because on surface you'd think, okay, deck of cards, app, that's not really going to give me an escape room vibe. Well, guess what? So this just tells you to go ahead and start the app and do that. Now you turn over this card like so, and we are in an office. So you can see here we have various different things that we're going to zoom in on like so. We've got a bookshelf of some kind, a television, a little, what is that there, like kind of a little vent, a door, and then another little vent down there. So these all of course correspond to these different cards. So it's a good idea to give folks different little stacks of cards, and then you can take a look at those. So we've got 42 here, for example, and we'll look at that. So one player can flip that up, and this is the TV here. So screen, there is no electricity, and you can see a couple of different things right there. You can see there's a little plug, and of course the number that corresponds that. And says you can combine this object with a blue object or a modifier. To do so, add their numbers together. If the total corresponds to a card, reveal that card. So we're looking for a blue card that we imagine in the real world would go with number 42. So let's just zoom out a little bit here. Now I've drawn all the cards, and what I like to do is sit all the cards around where they kind of physically are in the room. And it's possible through some of the more complex adventures, you have multiple rooms on the table. It doesn't usually take up that much room on the table, but let's say we found here a key at 11. This is a key. You can combine this with a red object. and we add that together. Well, guess what? We have a locked cabinet up here. So we say, oh, guess what we want to do? We're going to add these two together. 35 plus 11 is going to be 46, and lo and behold, we have a number 46 card here. So that means, boom, we've unlocked the cabinet. So we can see that there. So we unlock the cabinet. We can now discard cards 11 and 35. These are no longer important. If the game tells you to discard a card, then that's good, because then you know you don't have to keep going back to that, seeing if there's other clues, because some of these cards are much more complex than you'll see here. So we have here 46. Look closely at the picture. There are two intersecting elements, if you see that. So there's a couple things to note about this, and this gives you a good idea of what you might see in the card. We say, okay, what's that there? 16. That means I kind of see something in the cabinet there in the dark back of it. And also you want to kind of notice this little pattern here, which will come into play here. So, okay, good. We have a card for 16. And you do a lot of times want to stare at these cards, because there'll be little hidden numbers. It might be like, I'm just making this up, but there might be like water that's like on the ground in a certain way, and that shows a number. All that's kind of showing you is like you see something there, and then, okay, yeah, now we have here number 16. So a 10 centimeter electric long wire. So you can combine this with a red object or the red numbers of a machine, like so. Well, the first thing you can see here, this is, we'll kind of walk you through it. You can see this line here, and I'm sorry for spoiling the tutorial, but this gives you a sense. So you got these three dots here, and those three dots there, and there's a line there. Well, guess we can see this little board right there. So we say, okay, we probably want to take this new wire that we found and then traipse it along here. So we got +3 and +6 right there. Well, if we take these numbers, we got 16 plus 9, +3 plus 6, we drag those over. Oh, guess what? We have a card number 25. Bam. And so this means you have restored electricity, and that's awesome, because you are now going to add 42 and 6 together. The TV now has electricity, it's on, and that equals 48. So 48 here, we've got a code 7239, and guess what? That's the code we knew to the door, but not as easy as it may seem. Let's take a look. So let's show an example. We'll turn the sound back on just for fun. Okay, we've got the code. Let's type it in, 7239. This is wrong. Oh no, think it over, the colors will help. Okay, so it gives you that wrong. So maybe we got a penalty. We lost a minute. I'm making that up. You don't get a penalty in this tutorial. But oh, look at the letters. So it's red, yellow, blue, green. Red, yellow, blue, green. So 9372. So we'll enter in the code, 9372. Ta-da, we got out. So we got a score of 1 star, like so. And it gives you a little bit of a summary like that on the app. And just to kind of rewind it a little bit, you can do hints here. So you can say, give me the hint of the card. I don't know, 21, we're looking at the door there. We'll type that in there. It says, if you have found the numbers, you should look at the way exit is written on the screen. So sometimes you can run into, a lot more complex clues and puzzles that you've seen than here. And this was allow you a way to give you hints and stuff. You might have hidden object. There's a number hidden in the bottom of the chest. Stuff like that. This will give you little hints as you go along. And of course you can have penalties. You can click here and review the hints that you've gotten. Sometimes you can ask for hints multiple times if it's really hard. Like I've seen where you can ask 3 times, and the third time that you ask, it's just going to be, here's how you solve it, the end. But you can kind of control that however you want. And if you go over time, then you don't necessarily lose. You can keep going, you just don't get the best score. So that's really cool as well. It's not like, oh, you lost and here's how the escape room is actually working. You can take all the hints if you want to do it that way and just call it there, but it still allows you to keep going. This one we beat with about 5 minutes or so to go, and then the other one that I did we beat with we went over by about 2 minutes, maybe not even quite 2 minutes. We were so close, and then we called time, and I liked it. That's actually what I like about this better than an actual room where they kick you out, where you can be like, man, if we were like 3 minutes away, that's fine, we lost, but I still want to figure it out. So whatever that is, that's kind of the player dependent. But that's the gist of the game. Okay, so that was Unlock. What do I think of it? Well, this I think is my favorite escape room style game that I've played. I've played several of them so far. I have not played the Exit one yet, but I've heard kind of middling kind of reviews all over the place on that, so I haven't gotten too interested in that. But this one I really like. Across the board, most people, I would say, like this. There's been a handful that have said they didn't really care for it because the whole connecting numbers and just using cards and things like that didn't really feel very escape roomy to them. But to me, it does. Even though at the end you're kind of like adding numbers and finding codes and stuff, the route that you take to get there does elicit the theme of the escape room. And not only that, because sometimes you do these escape rooms and it's just a bunch of puzzles laid out. There's no like physical space, or sort of a picture of physical space at least, that you get to interact with. This gives you that, and just the act of like, laying out a new card, finding a card and seeing what's in there, a new kind of visual space to explore, that feels very much like an escape room. And also the way that the app itself gives you hints, shows you kind of hidden objects and things, and it kind of the way it kind of grades or sort of gradually kind of gives you more and more obvious hints and stuff like that. That feels very much like an escape room, because a lot of times when you do an escape room in real life, you'll get little notes under the door, or you get like sort of 3 phone a friend kind of thing, where you can wave at the camera and then they'll give you a hint because they've been watching you on the camera. So it gives you that vibe of an escape room. You've got the electronic timer there. You're actually punching in the door code and all that kind of cool stuff. There's sound effects on all that kind of neat stuff. Now I've done 2 of them. I've done this one, Squeak and Sausage, and then I also did the Formula. There's another one in that first wave. There was actually 3 when these came out, but you need like 6 players at least, and there's like 2 teams and you separate. So I haven't really been interested in that, just because it's a very specific type of setup. And then there's 3 more that have just come out, which I haven't had a chance. I saw them at PAX Unplugged. I haven't seen them in the stores around here yet. And I looked for them in the app. I didn't see them there. So my app's up to date, so I don't know where they're at, but I know they're out there. So these 2 that I've really liked. Now I did have a kind of an issue with one of the puzzles in this. I don't want to talk about it too much, but we did the hint on it and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then we got it. So I didn't feel too bad about it, because we did the hint and it was like, oh duh, okay, this is what we have to do. But when we took a step back, we were like, nah, that kind of is sort of breaking the rules of what we would have expected it to be. So that's all I want to say. It does have that, but just don't be afraid to use a hint if you get stuck kind of towards the end. I don't know. Is that spoilery? I don't know. To me, it kind of broke the rules, so I don't feel so bad. The other one, the Formula, was excellent start to finish. That was great. This one's certainly easier, except for that weird thing, than the other one, than the Formula. But they're relatively difficult, relatively the same difficulty-wise. But they give you little stars and stuff, and I think the other one with the teams, that's certainly the more difficult one. And I think one of the new 3 that's come out is definitely the most difficult one by a relatively significant margin. But they star them on the back. It gives you like a difficulty level, 1, 2, 3 stars. But I really enjoy it. It's immersive. It sort of tactically feels like an escape room, even though it's only cards in an app. Just the way that you kind of go through all those materials feels like an escape room. So I definitely recommend this. And the cool thing is I can take this box now, which I'm going to do, and give it to somebody at my game night and say, hey, you can do this now. I didn't tear anything up. I didn't crack open any boxes or break anything. And you can replay it, and you can pass it on to a buddy after that. So maybe your buddy buys 2 of them and I get 2 of them, and then we play them together or whatever, and then we can give them to whoever. So, and they're cheap and affordable, and I'm definitely going to plan on picking up at least 1 or 2 of the new ones and playing those when they come out more readily. So I highly recommend the Unlock series. And I say this one is probably a good one to start with too. This one you can certainly do with your family, and it's fun and silly. It's got this cool funny clown on it and all that stuff. So I think this would be a good one to start with. And the Formula to me was a tick up in difficulty level, even though they're marked the same. But I never felt like in the Formula any of the puzzles or clues were sort of out of bounds and there were too many red herrings. With this one I kind of felt that there was, but generally it was easier clues once we got into it. So I guess the red herring thing and the kind of the weirdness of that one clue was like, but the hint got us there, so I didn't feel too bad, and it was just kind of a normal hint. It wasn't like we were, getting it solved for us or anything. So anyway, so that's Unlocked. Thanks.